It is lights out and away we go. Welcome, racers, to episode 20 of the Harder Soft F1 podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Huff, and I'm joined by my co-host, RJ McCullough. What's up, RJ?
Adrian, nice to see you again. You are just coming off a long drive, so you look a little bit tired. I'm not gonna lie, but that's okay because I know you're gonna give your A effort. I'm coming off a bit of a boozy brunch, so I'm a little tipsy. I'm not drunk by any means, but a little tipsy. So had the Monday, Tuesday off. But I'm feeling good, ready to podcast, ready to roll. Coming off another good race. Indeed, the Austrian GP was another good one. So I lost again though. So what's the deal here? You have Charles.
Oh yes. Hey, by the way, a boozy brunch is the best kind of brunch. So.
Absolutely.
But yes, this week Charles took the W. It looked like Max was going to be set to take just a pretty easy victory this week, but Ferrari had other plans. They actually did him right this week, surprisingly, but they still fucked up royally, and we will get to that. But typically in the past, it's been a little bit, but when Charles has won, since he's on my team in our league, your punishment has just been to drink 5 or so Moscow Mules during the episode, or to see if you can, since that's his favorite drink. And of course, when Max wins, you chug a Red Bull. I drank the margarita for Sergio.
Yeah.
And ate a McGangbang because Carlos likes hamburgers. So I've been thinking, do we have to consume something every punishment? So I thought, let's go a little more psychological with it, but it also keep it in the same vein of F1. So I really hope you don't despise me for this, but before next week, episode 21, you have to drive a full race in Charles's home GP of Monaco in F1 22.
Oh no! Oh,
which
that is a punishment.
I've looked at the times as around 96 minutes.
Oh my god!
So
it's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. I'm gonna record it and chop it up and make an unfortunate video out of it, but oh god.
Yes, absolutely. That was another thought. I was like, that could make for some great content. And like I was telling you in the chat, without giving it away, you can definitely do the same to me when one of your drivers wins.
You're gonna get that back because yes, I have purchased F1 2022, and I do like it a lot. But the cars are obviously bigger, and I haven't even attempted Monaco yet because there's certain tracks that are hard enough as it is, and yeah, that's going to be a full GP. I'm definitely going to come dead last. I'm going to have to pit 24 times. Yeah, that'll be fun.
I was going to say, you're welcome to use as many flashbacks as needed. You don't have to limit yourself because last thing I want you to do is potentially completely DNF.
That's true. I could just DNF first lap.
Yeah, exactly. So it also screws you over because it means you have to do the whole thing.
I have to keep doing it. Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah,
I'm gonna turn difficulty way down.
Oh, absolutely.
Whatever. I'll make it fun.
Yeah, you can do whatever difficulty. I definitely don't think you could. You could swing higher than P20. So.
Well, I'll aim for the fences, but I'll race as Charles just to support the Monaco kid. It's a good win. I guess we'll do so that's my punishment for the week, so that'll be fun. Our actual league has gotten very, very tight. After last race, I was up by 22 points. This race, you had the top two, Leclerc and Verstappen, and then a couple of others. My top two were Hamilton, Russell. So you had 64 points this week. I had 38. So you now lead 581 to 577. So you have a 4-point lead.
Oh my god.
Coming down to the wire. We're halfway through the season, but we're right on it. 4-point gap.
The graph that we're gonna make with all this data at the end of the season is gonna look so sick.
I know, it's tracking.
Dude, even though I was deep down really wanted Max to win this week, even though the Austrian fans didn't deserve it. I was still completely on the edge of my seat for Charles because it just seemed like with his complaints at the end, I was like, he might not make it to the end, and I was just so worried because that would have been 25 points just out the window.
Yeah, it was actually like I don't want to say surprisingly good, but it was a very, very good race. Like I thought going into it, like Max is just gonna ride off into the sunset. He's gonna win by 5-6+ seconds, and maybe we'll have some good midfield action. And it just start to finish, it was really, really good. I think the sprint race was a little bit meh, but that's just like guys don't really. It's not worth maybe going for the risks. But we saw in the race like there was. I mean, we can go through it if we want to, but like just the main point, like there was a moment where there was basically 5 wide of guys in the midfield battling. Like it was incredible. So, but yeah, right off the start, Perez and Russell kind of got tangled up, and then Perez DNF lap 1 spun out into the gravel, and George did get a penalty. So I think it's fair to say this week. Last week, the initial reaction, it was George's fault. Turned out it wasn't really, but this one, this was George's fault.
Yeah, and 5 seconds. It's tough looking at it both ways because yes, he was penalized, but you can sort of be like 5 seconds compared to a DNF is nothing because George still came away with P4, but it's all about consistency, and that was a move that has been consistent with other similar moves this season. So I was more satisfied with it being consistent with their previous decisions just because the consistency has not really been there, like especially recently. But yeah, I feel like that was handled as best as it could be because I feel like anything more 10 seconds would have been maybe, a little bit more fair, but it wouldn't have been consistent with some of the other incidents that have happened. But yeah, I won't keep going on that rant, but yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I guess I would add is that George, he was complaining after that it was harsh. Like, I mean, you hit the guy out of the not right out of the race. So like you said, you DNF'd, you had a 5-second penalty, you still came fourth. Yeah. So like at the end of the day, nothing you really complain about. And in the end, like, yeah, I don't know, Mercedes, they bit of a weird, like they had another 4+ second pit stop with Lewis. Yeah. And, like it didn't really matter in the end because like the gap was huge, but that's just like you can't be having that. And in the moment it kind of did matter, but yeah, it's just a bit strange. But it was kind of a strange race for all teams. Like Red Bull, even like they had the tire degradation, and kind of Max and the team didn't seem to necessarily be on the same page, which kind of happens when it's not going perfectly for Max. But that's the nature of the beast. But yeah, it was sort of weird. But I mean, I think it was only like lap 13 or 14 when Charles made his first pass on Max, which was like kind of shocking. Like Max was defending him very well, and then Charles just came on the inside, and even the announcers were like, I think Max, you might have caught Max sleeping there a little bit. Like it was a great move, and like we've talked about before how Charles has incredible control of his car. But yeah, I was certainly surprised to see how many times Charles was able to pass Max and do it obviously cleanly, but you don't really see people pass Max like that. So I don't know, like what as a Rebel fan, what do you think happened? Was it just the tires? Like did Ferrari just have a faster car this week? Like what was it that, because that's Max's track. Like he had going into the race, he had led 142 out of 142 laps of the race, 2 races they had there last year, plus the whole sprint, plus he started on pole. So it was like, how's he not going to win this? So like what happened?
Yeah, it definitely, I think the tires might have caught them off guard a little bit too, but I don't know because they can't really change. Ferrari couldn't change that much with their car, so I think Charles I think he might have held back a little bit in the sprint too, because I mean there was they were close, but it was nothing like what we saw Sunday. Charles was just like a completely different beast, and it was awesome. But yeah, for Red Bull, I don't know. I think, the Sergio being knocked out at the beginning definitely, I think, took the wind out of them a little bit. But Max was having the tire issues, and also the car just didn't seem to perform as good as it did the day prior. So maybe it was something on the setup side. Who knows? But I mean, I think if his engine hadn't have exploded, he probably would have past Max at some points because the car just did not seem, and he just kept complaining about how the car just didn't feel right. So yeah, I mean it was totally Charles's race, but he passed him so many times. The strategy was just on point for them. Ferrari brought it, and I've if we said it last week, it was either going to be sink or swim, and they thankfully swam, but sank on the other side. But it was mental. I mean, even at the end, Charles just, even though he was losing a bit of time at the end, you could hardly tell that he was having to. They described it that he was having to, like, when he pushed the throttle down, that he was having to put his foot underneath the throttle and pull it back so he could brake. I mean, that is like mental.
Crazy.
Yeah. At those speeds, you can't fathom pulling something like that off. So it's just like, props to him.
It was exciting watching because like Max was gaining, but it never really felt like he was really going to catch him. But the times were dwindling. But then, when you realize like what Charles was doing just to keep that car going, like, it's crazy. And as a Merc fan, like, they obviously are the third fastest car. They are closing that gap a little bit, but like the reliability that Mercedes has had this year, knock on wood, is starting to kind of shine through, because like they haven't had, like, it's almost every race one of Red Bull or Ferrari, one of their cars craps out, it seems like. And like that's the one, I guess, main positive you can take from Mercedes, is they haven't had those. So they are able to close that gap, and they can get some 1-2s. They could slowly, that's why I said there's a glimmer of hope for the constructors still, but not that realistic. But I'm not giving up quite yet.
Never give up. Still we rise.
That's right. That is right. Another weird thing from the race, though, was the track limits. Like,
oh my god,
guys were going off by like millimeters and not really gaining an advantage at all. And then they were getting, like, how many guys got penalties? It seemed like 5 guys or something got penalties. I feel like every single person got at least 1 or 2 warnings. There's fines handed out after the race. Like, it was a little much, I think.
That's why I that definitely attributed to Sergio's DNF, because I mean he was already a lap down from 19th, so and then he got the black and white flag, so he had, and this was still so early in the race, so I mean they were probably just like, it's not worth it. Even if Sergio completely burns this engine out charging to P8, he's going to get a penalty and get knocked back, so it makes sense. Props to Lewis though, because somewhere around lap like 50, like the mid 50s, he got a black and white flag, I believe, or it was his second warning. I believe it was the black and white flag.
Yeah.
But he kept it in limits the rest of the race. And I mean, even I don't think a penalty would have mattered in the end, but he still kept it, avoid those penalty points. But it was ridiculous how many there were.
Yeah. Like, I think pretty much every driver, like, it was like, who's going to get the next penalty?
Yep.
So yeah, that was just a little strange. I don't know, like, the necessarily enough details to be able to critique it that much, but it just seemed like it was a lot more than usual, and it wasn't like guys were going off and getting an advantage. They were just like, millimeters over the line. What else? Well, the Alonso, one of the like most badass moves I've seen. Like, wow, he's, I guess, was it Yuki?
Yep.
Yeah, Yuki like kind of blocked him, and then he wasn't a fan of that. So as he's going past him, he just give him a finger wag while they're in the middle of the race. Like, that was sick.
Oh my god. I mean, Yuki was sort of pushing him off track almost with old hard tires. I mean, it didn't look good, and the whole time I was just thinking, like, how awful that just has to feel on Yuki's end, just because Helmut has just been tearing into him lately. I mean, he has just been nonstop with the hiring a psychologist or a therapist or whatever he said. It's just been, and then when that happened, I was just like, damn, dude, like, that can't feel good.
Yeah, this tough look for Yuki, but it was pretty badass from Alonso. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
What else do we had? We had obviously Sainz, but Gasly is starting to become a bit of a problem. He hit Vettel. That's a couple races in a row. He's just hitting people. He hit, obviously, with the Zhou crash, and then the sprint, and he's hitting people left and right. But so he's been a bit of a disappointment this year. But that wasn't, I guess, that big of a deal. The main thing that happened at the end was, Sainz was looking like he was cruising going to get the P2. There's going to be P1, P2 for Ferrari. They were going to gain huge points, much needed points over Red Bull, which they didn't really. But just out of nowhere, going down, like, after turn 1, going down that main, I think it was like that main straight there, his car just, like, you saw like stuff coming out of it, like whatever, and then it just lit, and then as he was trying to get out, like, it was like the brake wasn't working, the car was rolling back, and then it started going on fire. and it wasn't funny, but it was kind of funny just because it was like you knew he was gonna get it and be okay, but it was like, get out of the car, man, like get out, get out.
No,
it was just you see it lighting like every half a second, it's just lighting like quicker and quicker and quicker. You're like, get the fuck out of there.
He was dragging his feet.
Yeah, literally. And then he was like, the marshals didn't come in quick enough. But like, you gotta hop out of that car.
Yeah, no, and you could see the marshal running over with the fire extinguisher, but then he turned around, and we found out later because he forgot the I forget what they're called, the wedge that can stop the car. So it was comical, and that picture is like I think that's contender for like the best meme template that we've gotten is Carlos turning around and just the flaming Ferrari behind him. It is just like mwah, it is a chef's kiss. Like that, whoever took that photo, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah. There's some great photos that came out of just even the aftermath of the car. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, but it was insane how quickly, because I mean they went around that first big bend from the first straight off of turn 2, and he was right on Max, and it looked like he was like preparing to like attack, and then it just popped, and you just saw like the hot like trail coming out of the back, and it just immediately, it was just wild.
Yeah, poor Carlos. It's like I said, every race there's something that comes up.
Which probably means a penalty in the future as well, because that whole power unit is dead.
Yeah. As the season goes on, that's another thing with the Mercedes reliability. Like, Ferrari and Red Bull are going to probably have to do take a bunch of grid penalties because they're going to have to replace a lot of parts.
Absolutely.
So that bodes well for Mercedes. But what else I was going to say in the race? But Sainz in general, like I was pretty impressed by him before obviously the issues. Like, I think he's racing with a lot more confidence, and like he just seems to feel like he's part of he belongs more at Ferrari now. So yeah, I was sad to see that, but overall, like it was a really good race. The midfield battles were outstanding. Like every lap almost there was just back and forth. The setup of the track with like the long DRS after turn 1, and then it's just being pretty short track, and then DRS coming into the last turn. It's just the last turn. It made for a really good race, an exciting race from start to finish. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, the sprint wasn't the best. Quali was pretty good. But then after the race, we had another Ferrari, I guess, being Ferrari. And I don't know, there's two ways to look at this. One is like, so we're talking about Sainz, is the reaction from the pit crew when Leclerc won this week as opposed to Sainz winning. Much bigger reaction. Everyone was out there celebrating Charles. So, I mean, you can say two wrongs don't make a right. Like, maybe they were told off, like, hey, if one of our guys wins, everyone needs to be out there. But also, if you're Sainz, like, that's gotta feel like shit.
Yeah, and I get being happy for Leclerc because of his bad luck streak, but it's noticeable how there's so many more people at Charles's, like, team photo thing or whatever that they do. So, it's a little sad.
Yeah, it was sad. It was sad. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Ferrari. Was there any other issues you wanted to bring up about them?
We pretty much got everything. It's just I think it's so classic that they still had some sort of issue. I mean, if it's not bad strategy, it's reliability. I mean, they just cannot completely nail it. But at least Charles was able to bring it home because it felt like he was not gonna make it because it was such an intense like final like 3 laps. I was like, my heart was racing so fast. But I do think I want to give props to them for at least getting the strategy right this week. They did Charles right, and Carlos too. If the engine hadn't have exploded, that was a pretty guaranteed 1-2, if not a 1-3. So if they can keep that momentum going, we'll see. Besides Ferrari, though, the only thing was that I mainly wanted to touch was something you mentioned, just when Vettel and Gasly had that little collision. I just gave such props to Vettel. I just kept going, thank you for not causing a fucking safety car. Thank you. I was just like, this race does not need more action. It's good enough. Bringing the whole field together, because I was like, Mick's probably done for if everybody behind I don't know, I was just like, please don't. So props to him for doing that, but still complete disaster for Aston Martin. And Lance seemed kind of satisfied with his result, which was 13th, I think, with multiple DNFs. Let me actually confirm that. Yeah, he got 13th, and he was a lap down from Leclerc. So with 3 DNFs, not much to be proud of, but it definitely seems like this might be our last year with Sebastian Vettel, because just the way he's been talking in some of the interviews, it's not exciting. So
yeah, it seems like there's a couple of potential moves. So there's some Piastri rumors going around. We can talk about that in a minute. Yeah. I guess we'll just go through like how the race ended. Basically, I thought Lewis, like, obviously there was a few DNFs in front of him, but I thought Lewis actually had a really, really good drive. I'm biased, but I thought he had some nice passes. He drove smart. I thought he had a good drive. So we had Charles first, 25 points. Verstappen got second and fastest lap at 19, and then Hamilton third to round out the podium. And Russell, Ocon, Schumacher again gets points, 8 points this time, so he's moving up standings. Lando 7th, Magnussen 8th, Ricciardo 9th, Alonso 10th, and then we had Bottas, Albon, Stroll, Zhou Guanyu, Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda, Sebastian Vettel, and then the DNFs were Sainz, Latifi, Perez. Latifi, kind of a weird comment after qualifying. He qualified 19th out of 20, and he said that he thinks that is 2 really, really good qualities for him in a row. And last week he qualified 10th, right? So like that was really good. But then to see him saying that after qualifying 19th was kind of like,
it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man, you can't be saying that.
Yeah.
So that
disappointment from Alfa Romeo. Bottas started out super strong. I mean, he's still doing pretty decent in the standings, but he has not gotten very many points in the last like 2 months. So I hope they can get it together, because they had a pretty strong start. And of course, we already talked about Aston, and AlphaTauri has also just been doing absolutely terribly, specifically Pierre, but Yuki as well.
Very disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the midfield is like I'll just pull up the midfield is insane. Like the drop off, I'll pull up the constructor right now. Like
I've got it right here.
Yeah. Yes, like Red Bull 359, Ferrari 303. So Ferrari, like, there's still a fight there. And the Mercedes 237. Absolutely. And then there's just 359, 303, 237. And then fourth place is 81. Fourth and fifth, 81.
Yeah, they're tied.
So like everyone other than the top, like pretty much every team, realistically, like it's only happened through the season, could finish fourth. Like McLaren, Alpine at 81, Alfa Romeo 51, Haas 34, AlphaTauri 27, Aston Martin 18, Williams only 3, but like anyone has a good second half.
Absolutely.
Could be right in there. You want to go through the driver standings?
Sure. Let's see. Max, of course, is still leading. He's got 208. Charles regains some momentum. He passes Perez. Charles has got 170, so he's 38 behind Max. Then you got Perez, 151. Carlos, 133. George right behind him, 128. Then Lewis, 109. Then Lando, 64. Ocon, 52. Bottas, 46. Alonso, 29. Magnussen, 22. 12th with Ricciardo, 17. Pierre, 16. Vettel, 15. Mick Schumacher up into 15th with 12 points, passing Yuki in 16th with 11 points. Then Zhou Guanyu with 5. Albon with 3. Lance with 3. Latifi with 0. And Nico Hülkenberg with 0. So it's definitely like a midfield battle right now. I specifically McLaren and Alpine. I'm honestly kind of shocked that Alpine has not taken fourth like by a long shot. I think that shows just kind of how bad Alonso's luck has kind of been this season. Because the McLaren is horrible to drive. I mean, both of the drivers were complaining this week about how terrible of a drive it is. And obviously with Daniel's shortcomings this season too, Lando has got a podium this season, but still, it should be Alpine way out ahead. And of course, Alfa Romeo and Haas. Haas is definitely closing that gap. So it's anybody's game, and Mercedes too. I mean, I'm right there with you. They have a complete shot of a comeback this season. I'm hyped.
Yeah, it should be. We're setting up for a good good second half of the season. Don't really want to say too much on this subject, but just shame Shame on fans in Austria this week for their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Ring the bell of shame. Shame.
Yeah, appalling.
Yeah, like we don't need to go into the details of the stories, but just like it's 2022. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Get your shit together. That's disgusting. And like, of all, it was towards women, towards people of color, towards LGBTQ community. Like, unless you were a white man, you were under attack, and it's just unacceptable.
Just don't be a piece of shit. It's not hard.
Like, I think Toto just said, like, fuck off, stay home.
Yep.
Like, you don't need to go to the race and do that.
Exactly.
And, like, the flares are a little much, but I don't know. I just can't imagine, like, for visibility, that must be crazy when the flares are all over, like, you can't see through that going into, like, what if we had a start like last week where there's a huge crash and, like, the guys at the back of the grid wouldn't be able to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's just nitpicking because it's all orange, and I don't like that they're all Verstappen fans. But I am, like, half Dutch, so I should like Verstappen. I don't mind Verstappen, but it wasn't a good look for the Dutch this week.
No.
So,
and
Zandvoort, if that happens in Zandvoort, like, honestly, if it's like that in Zandvoort, get rid of Zandvoort off the calendar, because, like, you can't have that.
I completely agree with you. The smoke was too much. I mean, there was like 2 turns that were like completely covered with smoke. That should not be allowed. I'm shocked they haven't banned those at all GPs, to be honest, regardless who the driver is for. So that's annoying too.
The combination of that and the horrible behavior. Yeah, like I said, give Zandvoort another chance. But if they do it in Holland, I don't really care that much for that track. You can get rid of it.
Yeah.
But on good news, this might be. I think as a Lewis fan, I maybe took more pleasure out of this than most other people seeing this news. But just a round of applause and a sayonara. Sayonara. Take care, Michael Massey. Michael Massey is officially leaving the FIA to focus on time with his family, I believe. And that's a crock of shit. But thanks for everything, Michael. You can leave with a legacy of handing Max Verstappen his first world championship and fucking over Lewis Hamilton. But take care, buddy.
Yeah. I think them sort of testing the waters, saying that, like, if we did have multiple race directors, maybe Massey could come back into the mix, and the reaction was just so bad there was no way he was coming back. So it's kind of hilarious, but good luck with whatever his future ventures are, I guess.
I guess so. I don't know if we'll ever see or hear that name again, but
probably not.
I am certainly a-okay with that. A lot of pain was caused from that man. Not all his fault, but there's got to be a face for it, and he's the face for it.
Absolutely.
We don't really have too much this week. It's an off week for F1, which actually works out perfectly because we have a pretty busy month in terms of races this month. Excuse me, that's a brunch. But this week is in Indy, Toronto Indy. So I applied for media credentials through the podcast like a couple months ago, and they just got back to us like last week, which is a little disappointing because if we would have heard earlier, you could have come. But realistically, we didn't think we were going to get approved for them. I just applied just because why not? Let's see. Like, I used to do it with my golf stuff, and I would get approved. So I was like, yeah, let's try it. And I got approved for media credentials for the Toronto Indy. So I'm going to be going to that. So hopefully I'll be able to, I'll at least get much closer up and better view and stuff than I had in Montreal. It won't be quite as cool because it's not F1, but Grosjean's there, Ericsson, there's a couple Callum Ilott, there's a couple reserve drivers, and then Colton Herta, obviously, and he was testing for McLaren F1 today and yesterday at Portimao, which is Portugal. It's in the video game, so we know that track. So that's really cool. Hopefully I can ask him about that. I'm sure he'll be asked about that in general, but that'll be really cool to be closer, like in the paddock, I guess you could say, or whatever. So that'll be cool. Gonna have to think of some questions for Romain Grosjean.
Yeah, dude. I'm once again so jealous. Unfortunately, I don't have my passport.
Yes.
If we had a few more months to plan, definitely could have made it happen. But, now we know that we can get credentials to some other events. So definitely over the rest of this year and into the next year, we're definitely going to be going to some events. I'm super excited for that. And I just can't wait to see potential clips that you're going to be able to get and that we're going to post on our social media that we'll tell you at the end of the episode. But
yes,
if you can talk to Grosjean, I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
I don't know, it's gonna be hard not to just be like a F1 fanboy though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to come up with some lead off with some Indy questions, and then like, all right, I'm gonna have to try and get one of them to like do like a plug for our podcast. Like, I'm Roman Grosjean, and you're listening to the Hard to Soft F1 podcast, something like that. I don't know.
Oh, that would be sick.
I have no idea what like to expect, 'cause I've never done any coverage for this event, but we'll see. I'm gonna go in there, and I think it might actually be helpful that I'm not as much of a fanboy for Indy, like, so I won't be like starstruck. I'll maybe have like the balls to ask questions I wouldn't otherwise, like ask like Lewis Hamilton or something.
Take some cards.
Yeah, of course. Gonna have lots of cards. Gonna be leaving those around again. So,
have you thought about how you're gonna record?
Not really. Just got the phone.
Yeah, you could always do video, I guess. I'm sure that's what a lot of journalists use.
Yeah. I'll figure something out. And I mean, probably like I have the 2 media passes, and obviously you're not gonna be able to come with me, so I'll try and get like my brother or one of my friends to come with me and film some stuff.
Sick.
Yeah, just in general, being around the cards and stuff. Like, it still will be. It's not F1, but it's probably, you could say it's like the minor league of F1 almost. So it's
still racing.
Yeah, still racing. Still gonna be really cool. Just being in the vibe, and who knows, like the people that'll be around. Maybe, I mean, there's a lot of former F1 people, and yeah, maybe like Zach Brown or someone will be there. Who knows?
You never know. Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Anything you want to talk about before we? I mean, you just went to Florida. That place you were staying in looked amazing.
Yes, just got back from a little vacation, little weekend trip. I was sending you some photos. We got to do these go-karts at this place called Autobahn, I guess named after the road in Germany. But it was a lot of fun. They're go-karts. They claim to go up to 55 miles an hour, but I think we were reaching around when you could catch like a good little straight, you were probably hitting like 35, maybe 40. But it was so much fun.
Okay.
They had 2 tracks. One was based off Le Mans, and the other was based off Monaco. Of course, they were nothing like the real tracks, obviously, but so much fun. I was cooking. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It felt awesome. I've been wanting to do like some real go-karts, and these were like the all electric ones. So it was just a blast. Unfortunately, the last guy in our race was a dick and just was like completely breaking the rules. But he was friends with the employee, so they didn't do anything. He was like passing on yellows and
it's always one guy
slamming into us to pass us. It's like, fuck you, dude. But
Nikita Mazepin was taking a vacation last week, I guess, in Florida.
Was he?
Well, sounds like it. He was just
yeah, it sounds like
just barreling through yellow flags. And
I know. Okay, that makes sense. Why? Okay, yeah.
That adds up.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. An older gentleman complimented me. He said I was impossible to pass. So
there you go.
I told him, I'm like, I play Formula 1 games all the time.
Know my racing. I know my Apex.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, he goes, what? But yeah, it was a lot of fun, dude. Like there's a racing line in any sort of race. It's crazy, even in little go-karts. Like, I'm like, it sounds so geeky and like pathetic, but it legitimately helps you like take corners and just like going completely flat out in a corner, like barely nailing the apex. It's so much fun. It was a blast. Got to would you want to take a guess? So I don't know if I've told you this, but I have a very big head.
Okay. Big noggin.
Yeah, big noggin. Not because of a big brain. I don't know why, but I didn't get smarter. I got dumber, I think. But regular hats just don't fit my head. So like if I go to a Lids and I get like a 13, the biggest size they have in store, that doesn't really fit either. Like I found a Adidas hat, and it's like where you have the little like dots on the back, the little clips.
Yeah.
If I put it on the farthest one, it fits perfectly.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
I put on my 3X helmet. It was the only one they had, but I was the only one using it. So
smush that thing on there.
Yeah, it's the first time since like I was a kid that I was able to put like a full helmet on, and it had like the visor, which I ended up pulling up because I kept fogging it up. But we got to do the whole like sleeves over the head, the ski mask. It was a blast. So
awesome.
I might post some footage to the Harder Soft TikTok. We'll see, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I was talking about that the other day. Get out to a go-kart track around here. That'd be so much fun.
Oh, when we eventually do meet up in person, that's one of the first things we're doing. Because
we'll have a race.
Even around here, there's Andretti, which have electric go-karts. They're not as fast, but they're just as cool.
Yeah.
The one thing that sucks about those places, though, is the data is complete bullshit. It tells you that like somebody that I passed twice, that I lapped 2 times, was faster than me. Just like complete horseshit.
Yeah.
And then they send you these little emails of like who won each race and the little podium, and it had like my friend's picture, but then just like the name Carlos, just like not him at all.
Yeah.
So it's just like the data's complete bullshit, but
can't trust the data.
No, you can't trust the data,
but
trust
the science.
It's a blast, so it's totally worth it. Highly recommend.
Okay, well I guess I gotta go get started playing Monaco now, because this is gonna take this punishment's gonna take me all day, but I'll have a video of that coming out. But yeah, we don't have an F1 race this week. We got France next week, which people don't really like, but I mean it's one of my favorite tracks to drive in the video game, probably because it's easy.
Yeah,
but
it's a fun track.
So yeah, we got that next week. Ocon, his home race, I guess Gasly's as well. So
and then we've got our summer break.
Yeah, well, do we have Hungary first, or is it?
Hungary is the returning race.
Oh, that's return.
Oh,
so France.
No. I'm looking at the dates right now. I'm completely wrong. No, then we have Hungary July 31st. I am mistaken. Okay. We're returning with Spa.
The break, and then a great return of Spa. Hopefully a dry Spa, or at least not a.
Let's hope.
Soaking wet, but yeah, I think we pretty good this week. Just a nice little short episode for the people.
Yeah, pretty short. We've got another short break because since the Russian GP is canceled, we'll have Monza on September 11th this year, and then we'll have a break until October 2nd. So pretty much a 3-week break. So a little mini fall break as well, but we're gonna keep pumping out content. But yeah,
absolutely.
Good little mini episode.
Yeah, you're going to get the video game soon, so over the break we're going to make some stuff with that, and we got a couple new like little series stuff we're working on for hopefully release during the break. So yeah, keep tuned, stay tuned. We'll have some fun stuff out this weekend, and then now that we know we can get media credentials, we're going to try and take advantage of that. Keep posted on when our next race we're going to go to, hopefully together. Well, definitely together. Hopefully this will be the last event we don't go to together.
Hopefully.
Isn't that sweet? All right, well, give us the socials and let's get out of here.
We'll get out of here. Yes. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at HarderSoftF1, and listen on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, HarderSoftF1 Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week with episode 21.